Letter 15. By St. Gregory of Nyssa to Adelphius the lawyer. I write you this letter from the sacred Venota, if I do not do the place injustice by giving it its local title. Do it injustice, I say, because in its name it shows no polish. At the same time the beauty of the place, great as it is not conveyed by this Galatian epithet. Eyes are needed to interpret its beauty. For I, though I have before this seen much, and that in many places, and have also observed many things by means of verbal description in the accounts of old writers, think both all I have seen, and all of which I have heard, of no account in comparison with the loveliness that is to be found here. Your Helicon is nothing, the islands of the blessed are a fable, the Ciceronian plain is a trifle, the accounts of the Peneus are another case of poetic exaggeration. That river which they say by overflowing with its rich current the banks which flank its course makes for the Thessalians their far-famed temp. Why, what beauty is there in any one of these places I have mentioned, such as Venota can show us of its own? For if one seeks for natural beauty in the place, it needs none of the adornments of art, and if one considers what has been done for it by artificial aid, there has been so much done, and that so well, as might overcome even natural disadvantages. The gifts bestowed upon the spot by nature who beautifies the earth with unstudied grace are such as these. Below, the river Halys makes the place fair to look upon with his banks, and gleams like a golden ribbon through their deep purple, reddening his current with the soil he washes down. Above, a mountain densely overgrown with wood stretches with its long ridge, covered at all points with the foliage of oaks, worthy of finding some Homer to sing its praises more than that Ithacan Narratus, which the poet calls far seen with quivering leaves. But the natural growth of wood, as it comes down the hillside, meets at the foot the planting of men's husbandry, for immediately vines, spread out over the slopes, and swellings, and hollows at the mountain's base, cover with their color, like a green mantle, all the lower ground, and the season at this time even added to their beauty, displaying its grape clusters wonderful to behold. Indeed this caused me yet more surprise, that while the neighboring country shows fruits still unripe, one might here enjoy the full clusters, and be sated with their perfection. Then, far off, like a watch-fire from some great beacon, there shone before our eyes the fair beauty of the buildings. On the left, as we entered, was the chapel built for the martyrs, not yet complete in its structure, but still lacking the roof, yet making a good show notwithstanding. Straight before us in the way were the beauties of the house, where one part is marked out from another by some delicate invention. There were projecting towers, and preparations for banqueting among the wide and high-arched rows of trees crowning the entrance before the gates. Then about the buildings are the Phaeacian gardens. Rather, let not the beauties of Venota be insulted by comparison with those. Homer never saw the apple with bright fruit as we have it here, approaching to the hue of its own blossom and the exceeding brilliancy of its coloring. He never saw the pear whiter than new polished ivory. And what can one say of the varieties of the peach, diverse and multiform, yet blended and compounded out of different species? For just as with those who paint goat-stags, and centaurs, and the like, commingling things of different kind, and making themselves wiser than nature, so it is in the case of this fruit. Nature, under the despotism of art, turns one to an almond, another to a walnut, yet another to a dorsinus, mingled alike in name and in flavor. And in all these the number of single trees is more noted than their beauty, yet they display tasteful arrangement in their planting, and that harmonious form of drawing. Drawing, I call it, for the marvel belongs rather to the painter's art than to the gardener's. So readily does nature fall in with the design of those who arrange these devices, that it seems impossible to express this by words. Who could find words worthily to describe the road under the climbing vines, and the sweet shade of their cluster, and that novel wall structure where roses with their shoots, and vines with their trailers, twist themselves together and make a fortification that serves as a wall against a flank attack, and the pond at the summit of this path, and the fish that are bred there? As regards all these, the people who have charge of your nobility's house were ready to act as our guides with a certain ingenuous kindliness, and pointed them out to us, showing us each of the things you had taken pains about, as if it were yourself to whom, by our means, they were showing courtesy. There too, one of the lads, like a conjurer, showed us such a wonder as one does not very often find in nature, for he went down to the deep water and brought up at will such of the fish as he selected, and they seemed no strangers to the fisherman's touch, being tame and submissive under the artist's hands like well-trained dogs. Then they led me to a house as if to rest, a house, I call it, for such the entrance betokened, but when we came inside, it was not a house but a portico which received us. The portico was raised up aloft to a great height over a deep pool, the basement supporting the portico of triangular shape, like a gateway leading to the delights within, was washed by the water. Straight before us in the interior a sort of house occupied the vertex of the triangle, with lofty roof, lit on all sides by the sun's rays, and decked with varied paintings, so that this spot almost made us forget what had preceded it. The house attracted us to itself, and again, the portico on the pool was a unique sight, for the excellent fish would swim up from the depths to the surface, leaping up into the very air like winged things, as though purposely mocking us creatures of the dry land. For showing half their form and tumbling through the air, they plunged once more into the depth. Others, again, in shoals, following one another in order, were a sight for unaccustomed eyes, while in another place one might see another shoal packed in a cluster round a morsel of bread, pushed aside one by another, and here one leaping up, there another diving downwards. But even this we were made to forget by the grapes that were brought us in baskets of twisted shoots, by the varied bounty of the season's fruit, the preparation for breakfast, the varied dainties, and savory dishes, and sweetmeats, and drinking of healths, and wine cups. So now since I was sated and inclined to sleep, I got a scribe posted beside me and sent to your eloquence, as if it were a dream, this chattering letter. But I hope to recount in full to yourself and your friends, not with paper and ink, but with my own voice and tongue, the beauties of your home.